Unautistic. Okay. Why is I'm audible to you?
You can sit in front. I want you to
Okay. Today I will talk about the tourism boom in Tibet. So first I will cover a little bit of introduction, and then I will talk about development of tourism in Tibet, and then growth of tourism, and then the impacts. Okay. Actually, tourism is very good for the economy of the nation. So why do we talk about its impact? Actually, Tibetan Plateau is the world's highest plateau, and this is geologically very fragile. So whatever development happens on the Tibetan Plateau, it affects the people lying in the downstream regions. So Tibet was, as you all know, Tibet was a free country till 1959. Okay. That time, tourism was not existent like these days. There was some sort of pilgrimage. People from far away, like Amdo and Kham, would come to Lhasa for a pilgrimage. And then 1959 to 1980s, Tibet, after the occupation of Tibet, Tibet remained just landlocked. Okay, it was close to the rest of the world. And then slowly, from 1979, when there was economic reform in China, Tibet was opened to the rest of the world. And then tourism picked up little from there. And then in the year 2006, Gormo to Lhasa railway station started. Train from Gormo, okay, that's lying in the Qinghai province of the China. Okay, that started operation, and from that on, tourism just increased in leaps and bounds. So until 2005, tourism in Tibet Autonomous Region. I am talking about Tibet Autonomous Region. You might be knowing about the Tibetan inhabited areas in Tibet Autonomous Region. Actually, Tibet Autonomous Region is the region where China considers Tibet. Okay. Tibetan Plateau covers the whole of Tibetan minority inhabited areas. So in the Tibet Autonomous Region, until 2005, the number of tourists was 1.8 million. And in 2013, after the railway has started, number of tourists visiting Tibet has gone to 12.91 million. Okay. And most of the tourists visiting Tibet are mostly Chinese migrants, like Chinese, Han Chinese. On an average, there's 95% Chinese national and 5% Westerners. So now I will cover a little bit on the impacts of the tourism boom on economic, on Tibetan culture, and on Tibetan environment. Actually, tourism has increased the gross domestic product of the Tibet. As a result of tourism, the accessibility has much improved because of the advent of railways, highways, airways. But as you can see, in today's Tibet Autonomous Region, most of the population are Han Chinese. Han Chinese outnumber Tibetan these days in Lhasa. So since most of the tourists are Chinese nationals, they stay in Chinese restaurant, they eat Chinese food in Chinese restaurant, they stay in Chinese hotels. So that's why economically GDP has increased, but when you count how much has benefited the local Tibetans, that is native Tibetan has not benefited that much, because most of the tourism income went to Chinese nationals. So in Tibet there is a rule. When you go to Tibet, in Tibet Autonomous Region especially, there is a specific rule. You have to be escorted by a tourist guide. You have to have a vehicle, private vehicle and a driver. So the rules in Tibet is that tourist guide needs to be pass certain exams, which is quite competitive in the guide market, because Tibetans are a little bit like less educated than the Han Chinese. Since China there is unemployment problem, so most of the graduates who have studied in China, they come to Tibet for job, to seek job. So in the job market, guide market, most of the guide job goes to the Chinese Han people. So that's why there is some kind of marginalization happening in Tibet in terms of economy. So when it comes to culture, the most important attraction in the Tibet these days is Potala Palace, #1 tourism attraction in Tibet, and the second is Chogang Temple, you might be knowing, and then Pargo Square. So normally in our culture, we don't charge any entry fee for visiting monastery and temple. But with the advent of tourism in Tibet, everything became so commercialized that even visiting temple, you have to pay admission fee. For example, in 2012, to visit Chogang Temple, you have to pay entry fee 75 yuan, Chinese yuan. So this highly contradicts the Tibetan culture. So this is like commercializing our religious side. Okay. And another thing is Potala Palace. Potala Palace, in our history, is a very sacred building for all the Tibetans, because from 5th Dalai Lama to the present Dalai Lama, the Potala Palace has been the abode. It has been the residence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And this Potala Palace also received, it's also awarded the UNESCO World Heritage status. So now, due to heavy commercialization in Tibet, Potala Palace is now emerging like, not only Potala Palace, the whole Lhasa region is emerging as rapidly emerging as a wedding destination. It's some sort of exotic place for the tourists. So for Tibetan, it symbolizes religious site, but for the tourists, it is some sort of mysterious, exotic wedding destination. So this is some kind of cultural diversion is happening because of the advent of tourism. And in the year 2012, Chinese government announced some kind of 1.2 million, or I'm not sure about the exact figure, to renovate the Pargo Square. You might be knowing Pargo Square. Pargo Square is near the Chogang Temple. Actually, I have got all the pictures, but since we don't have electricity, so Pargo Square is like just like this one, circumambulation route for the Chogang Temple. Ancient pilgrims, Tibetan pilgrims used to circumambulate the Chogang Temple, and now Chinese has launched a renovation of Pargo Square to turn it into Pargo shopping mall. So the ancient traditional street sellers, around 3,000 street sellers are there. So all these street sellers are now compulsory to move to Pargo shopping mall. So some sort of like Sinicization is happening in Tibet because of the tourism. And you might be also knowing about this one, theme park. In the same year 2012, China launched $4.7 billion project theme park. Theme park, the main focus of the theme park is that there will be a play performed by Princess Wenjing. Okay, this play is based on the Princess Wenjing, Actually, from this play, Chinese government wants to tell the foreigners that Tibetan civilization has started because Princess Wencheng was gifted as a groom or bride to the Tibetan king Songtsen Gampo. While this is while China wants to portray the message through this theme play, this highly contradicts our version of history. Actually, in our version, the history is that King Songtsen Gampo got the Princess Wencheng from China through what you call actually it was not as a gift, it was type of as a token, like as a when you fight for something you get some reward, like this thing. I'm sorry for my life. Okay, now I will go to the environmental impacts. As you can see in Dharamsala, how tourism has influenced, or how tourism has has affected the environment. Okay, so here I will talk about this one, air pollution that is going on in Tibet. Lhasa was actually known for its sunny city. Okay, very rarely Lhasa engulfed in dust. So right now the situation in Lhasa is that there are lots of vehicles, lots of traffic, so lots of tourists coming in Lhasa. So I'm not saying that this has caused this dust, but you can relate to these things because of the lots of infrastructure, lots of vehicle. Dust can be attributed to these factors. So everything in the everything from mountain to lakes in the Tibet has been exploited for tourism. You can see a huge amount of mountain tourism that is going on in Tibet, climbing expeditions and these things. So what this expedition has got is that there are lots of garbage near the foothills of the mountain. For example, according to some estimates, Mount Everest is littered with 50 tons of garbage and 200 corpses. And when the glaciers melt, they bring this garbage downtown, polluting the water system of these nearby villages. So and Tibetan lakes, there are thousands of lakes in Tibet. All these are very, some lakes are very sacred to Tibet, because normally when the high lamas or high tugu or venerable people dies, for reincarnation these lakes are consulted. So now these lakes are commercialized very heavily. For example, in Qinghai Lake, a cruise ship is in operation. Since Qinghai Lake is known for its bird migration spot, so the cruise ship, you can imagine, when there are lots of people on the cruise, they will make a lot of waste, and these waste will, when these waste go into the water, they will kill the marine creatures. So Qinghai Lake, the point in Qinghai Lake is that this lake is inland lake. Water can flow in, but it cannot flow out. So if these lakes become polluted, then you can imagine the environmental, the marine creatures of these waters. So I'll now go to the recommendation. So my suggestion for the tourism boom in Tibet, we are not against the development, we are not against the tourism boom, because tourism helps in the growth of the economy of the nation. But it should be like, it should be sustainable. It should be like ecotourism, like it should conserve the environment as well as have the well-being of the nation, well-being of the communities. The current state of tourism in that is that tourism is mostly top-down. It's mostly the projects are led by the higher authorities. Normally, local people are not consulted. So it should be more like community-based tourism, and local people of the community must be involved when laying out certain big projects. So this is my short recommendation. What questions you have, you can ask.
Development process, you said that the local people are not consulted. So is there anybody, like any Tibetan body out there, any governing body of only Tibetan people, where your people goes and they are elected and they take decisions, they suggest the Chinese government that this should be done here? Is there anyone?
In the governing body,
May I visit her and talk to her family, or is prohibited to have any contact with the Tibetans? Yeah, if I have a friend in Tibet, and if I go there, if I can talk to her and to talk to her family, or is prohibited to make any contact with the local people as a tourist? Because as we know, we can go there only with a group or with a guide or guiding like tours. So it's okay to contact the friend who is living there.
when you go to Tibet, you have to go through a travel agency.
Yeah.
So you can talk to individual Tibetan families, but I think all these are very, all these things are under full of restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think it will be a little bit hard.
And how is it when somebody go out abroad from Tibet? They can come back with no case. Like if they go treat him, the Chinese